Well, good morning, and here they are, the two Bs. The term online has even seeped through to me. It does not seem to have seeped through to the rail companies.
No. Yeah, bob.
Online is seeming more difficult. So the Lewis one was the most serious incident of the train incidents, but there were two more. And also the Uckfield line, I believe, has been closed temporarily. So what's going on, chaps?
Well, Keith, thanks for just saying everything we were going to say.
We might as well go now, Richard.
Yeah, I think that's it. Keith's done it. Yeah, so there have been three of these events. There's been the worst one, which is on the train line north of Lewis, as you pass the River Ouse, and that caused the derailment of some of the carriages. And I was thinking about it. It's not as if there are any particular curves on that part of the line, so it's not that it's sort of carriages have tumbled off because of that. So it looks very much as if it's a fault with the track in some way. Now that blocks the train from Lewis, for example, to London, to Haywards Heath, to Gatwick Airport. And the news that we were given yesterday, I don't know if you saw it, is that we've got, the carriages won't be moved or removed for at least another 10 days.
I mean, it is utterly disastrous.
Yeah.
Not only for Lewis itself, but the sheer havoc that you just alluded to on a major rail line, including into Brighton. And
yes, the other two that we've had. There's the one around Polegate, so between Lewis and Eastbourne, which was mercifully just a landslip with no train derailing and nobody injured, as I understand it. And then, as Keith said yesterday, there was news that the line north of Crowborough, the very odd little line that used to come all the way into Lewis, and then they foolishly closed it down, and they'll never be able to put it back in the way it was, because there's a great big Tesco in the way of where the line used to come into Lewis, and it can't, because in fact that line had at the bottom of the hill, it used to go over on a bridge across the street in the middle of Lewis to get to the station.
Interesting.
And if you go, there's a little lane towards the station there, round the sort of back of the Lansdowne Arms.
Do you mean a Twitter?
Sorry? No, it's actually a little, quite narrow road. It doesn't go anywhere. You can get in from next to the depot and drive along, and then you have to turn around. But there is in fact,
right.
Yeah, there is in fact, if you go along there, there is part of a bridge there that's it's only one half of it, but that was where that line went across, and it was pre-beaching that they actually closed that line down. Not long pre-beaching, but it was. And the foolish thing about it is that, as has happened, if you have a problem on the main line,
Exactly.
All those problems there were with Borkum, and that kept having problems with stuff falling onto rocks falling onto the line. So that line is closed as well, because north of Crowborough there has been a further land slip. So there's 3 of them, all within the space of a little over, about a week.
Yes, well, they do say trouble comes in threes,
Yeah.
rather like this program. But
Yes.
of course, the other derailment was over in Essex.
Yes.
And the significance of that is, in my view, purely this. It indicates that the lines in Essex were also affected by the heat.
Yes.
Because personally, having encountered train problems during my years of commuting, it's not unusual for the rails to warp.
Yeah.
Now, we 3 know that stretch outside Lewes.
Yes.
It is perfectly straight and level,
Yeah.
but it is very exposed. And I, for one, little or no doubt that it was the tracks warping.
Yeah. You in that last paragraph, you've just used the word warped and exposed. Now, are you talking about yourself there?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought you probably were.
This isn't just a minute, Richard.
Is it not?
No.
No. Well, no, it's yeah. But the implication.
It's a bit rich for you to say to anybody else about being warped and exposed.
Thank you.
That is a bit rich, Richard.
Yeah, if only I
repetition,
were.
Repetition.
Yeah. Deviant.
Deviation.
No, I'm calling you a deviant. It's nothing to do with it.
Jules, I'd like you to know that I'm not warped.
Yes.
Okay.
What is this? What is this? Star Trek. Warp factor 3.
Yeah.
Right, let's cut to the chase, because you're both concerned about the legal implications of all this.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
That's what I was just going to say. It seems to me the first thing is that there will be a significant number of commuters who live in Lewes but work in London, who, because they're regular commuters, no doubt have season tickets as opposed to just buying them on the day. And it does seem to me that those who maintain the lines and have failed to do so in this case are going to need to pay them a substantial rebate on their season tickets.
That will be Network Rail.
It's Network Rail, yeah. I suppose Network Rail might say, well, in fact, we've put on a bus replacement service, but that's no good because it will add an hour to your journey both ways.
At least
to get to London.
At least the whole point of going on a train is to avoid road traffic. Yeah,
and so I think the first thing is, in the civil law, as opposed to the criminal law, it does seem to me that there is the potential, if they don't cough up, for people to sue because they had paid you know, I can't remember how much it is nowadays for a yearly season ticket. I've got friends who have them, but you know, it's a lot of money.
Yes, it's £4,000.
Yeah, and it seems to me that they would be entitled to sue Network Rail for Network Rail's failure to provide them with the service for which they have forked out so much money. I don't know what your views are on that, Phil.
Yes, well, I can't disagree with the description of the likely procedure or process. I don't think the case will be made out against Network Rail for the simple reason that there is very little precedent for such things, and they'll probably plead something like act of God. You know, what can we do? How do we prevent our railway lines that are normally okay from in extreme heat weather conditions?
Yes, but it's not that, is it? It's that they purported to provide a service, and for whatever reason, there will be a significant gap in that, and therefore the commuters shouldn't be paying for that period of time.
Yeah, that's a slightly different point.
Yeah.
To the one I thought you were making. Somewhere or from someone there has to be compensation.
Yes, yes.
And it won't be from the rail company, because the rail company, as I found out to my surprise whilst I commuted, the rail companies get almost none of the revenue from the fares. The government does.
Right.
So if I'm right on that, and it was a senior ticket man who told me this some years ago, then it would be Network Rail and the government, because Network Rail is state-owned.
Yes, yes.
Who will have to sort this out.
Yeah.
That's my analysis.
No, that's a very good point. Yeah, but we'll have to see.
What is it called when you want to sue the Crown?
Well, you can sue the Crown.
Yeah, but what's it called? It's got a special name, hasn't it?
No, it's called suing the Crown.
Yeah.
Oh.
HM Gov.
Yeah.
You're not suing the King.
No.
But you're suing the government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would be, I mean, what would happen, subject to Richard's views, is they would consolidate all those who've lost. There'll be a single action.
What's called a class action.
Yes. Yeah. So
it's a class of people, all of whom have the same grievance.
So it will be, you know, the people against HM Gov and Network Rail.
Yep.
The action. I'd like to think that there would be no need to do that. I think a payout should be offered straight away.
Yes. Yes.
But
I'm not sure Andy Burnham can afford that, but we'll have to see, won't we?
No.
He'll have to break open his piggy bank and see how much he's got in there.
Well, there's an awful lot he can't afford, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we are.
Yes.
What about the people that were injured?
Oh, well, that will be a separate issue, but again, it seems to me that they've got a right in the civil courts to bring a personal injury claim.
That has to be right. I mean, if as I suspect will be the case, driver error is excluded.
Yes.
And I think it will be, because we all know that stretch. You know, I've never known a train to go particularly fast. A train that I've been on anyway, either way along that way. Particularly approaching Lewes itself. So it will be something to do with either the train or the track.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the big question. Like I say, my little Penrith is on the track, not the train.
Yeah. Well, it can't just be coincidence that this has occurred in such close timing with the other
my point exactly.
Failures of the
exactly
rail.
Exactly. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's beyond coincidence.
On international reports, the train ahead of it apparently it got over that particular section, got the juggers to the point where some luggage fell off racks and that sort of thing.
Oh dear. So it was
I didn't know that bit.
It was beginning to fail then. Yeah. Yes, I have. You know, I think it was a couple of people, wasn't it, who were more seriously injured.
Yes. There was some walking wounded as well.
That's right.
And of course, there's the whole trauma of it.
Yes.
It's extremely scary.
Well, you know, there's the potential for a claim there as well, isn't there?
Absolutely. Pain,
you know,
pain and suffering and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, a civil action, not for the trauma that it's caused, that can be actionable. So there's a whole range of ways that
loss of earnings.
Yeah.
All sorts of possibilities there.
Yeah.
So yes, a pretty damning incident, and right next to dear old Lewes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So the train companies or Network Rail or whomsoever could be in for quite a big payout.
Yes, or a payout in 2 or 3 different ways. You know, refunding the cost of your season ticket, refunding any loss, as Phil said, of earnings, which could occur. You know, if you're self-employed,
absolutely, for
example, and you can't get to where you to go and see clients in London, the trauma is potentially actionable for anybody who's on the train or on the 3 carriages, and the personal injury claims. So it's a civil lawyer's dream.
Yeah, it'll keep some civil lawyers in work for a considerable time if it all comes to fruition, Richard.
Yeah, quite.
So, I mean, you two, as a professional interest, will watch for the official reason for the train coming off the track. I mean, everybody is assuming probably, as you use the word, warped track from the heat. But it could be engineering failure, could it not?
Yes.
It could. It could be that it's not the track itself that warped, to use that word again. It could be that the sleepers and all literally the nuts and bolts had loosened in some way.
Yeah.
But it was to do with the heat. I'm in no doubt about that.
No, quite.
Yeah.
But however, the heat
the reason I was asking, Philip, is, as you both know, it's just about another half mile along the track. It's a tunnel going is under Lewes and into Lewes.
Correct.
And if it had happened there, then we might have seen much greater loss and complications. What I'm trying to establish in a broad sense from the two of you is, if it wasn't a warped track, it could have happened in a tunnel.
Yes.
The
The heat wouldn't. The heat wouldn't be affecting the track.
That's right.
That's right. But engineering it very liquid.
Yes.
So we'll never know whether it would have happened in the tunnel, although you tell us there was an earlier train that felt a bit of a wobble where the ultimate derailment was. So that train must have got through the tunnel perfectly safely or without incident. So in a sense, it's a negative because what it's doing is suggesting at least that there was no problem with the track that was in the shelter of the tunnel, but there was a problem with the track that were exposed to the heat.
Right.
That's my way of looking at
it. Yeah.
I always that tunnel. It starts at the north of Lewes and then emerges at the south of Lewes. But if you're in some buildings on the high street, for example, my old Chambers building, you could hear the trains rattling along underneath you. And I always thought it would be quite nice to have a Lewes Castle station in the middle of town. And then people could get off there and they wouldn't have to walk up Station Street.
Yes. It is a bendy rail to the tunnel, though, isn't it? Because you can hear the wheels.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
it starts turning to the left, doesn't it, in order to go in on platform 1. Yes, and you hear the sort of the screech that the wheels make against the rails. That's right. Yeah. Now, Phil, aside from the civil implications of this, I'd like your views on whether there might be any criminal proceedings.
Well, there is an offence of criminal negligence, of course.
Yes.
Nobody's died,
no.
So it's not going to be a manslaughter.
No.
But it is going to be criminal negligence, if anything. But the standard of proof for that is very, very high.
Yes. I'm just wondering because if there were any attempt at proceedings, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, I think it wouldn't be the CPS who would be conducting those.
No, it wouldn't be.
It would be the regulator.
It would be the regulator. It'd have to be the regulator.
Yeah, and
because it's not a public prosecution as such, is it?
No, it would still be in the Crown Court, but it would just be a different organisation preparing the prosecution and presenting it.
I think I just say instinctively, I just don't think that will ever get off the ground.
No, well, you never know.
Had people died,
yes, of course, yeah.
I think it would be a lot more certain.
Yeah.
But as nobody had died, if they can get satisfaction through the civil proceedings, compensation, damages, whatever, it would surprise me if anybody embarked on a very costly. Criminal. You know this better than me. Criminal negligence proceedings are very expensive and very lengthy.
Yes. Well, and the other thing about it is that, my limited experience of regulatory offences, which is what really we're talking about here, and it's not an area that I particularly specialise in at all. But
well, you're better than me because I've never done it.
Right, but it can be years before the case is prepared.
Oh, absolutely.
Brought to court. Not just the delays that the courts have generally with ordinary criminal work, but significantly longer. And the other thing about regulatory offences I've discovered is that these organisations, the CPS, if they're successful in a prosecution, will typically say a sort of relatively modest sum in cost, and a judge might or might not order that, depending on the person's means and whether they're going to become one of my neighbours up there for a few years. But regulatory work, the costs that they apply for are absolutely astronomical.
They are, and they're punitive. And
Yes.
Where's the money going to come from when you're suing a government body?
Yep.
Network Rail.
Yeah. Well, it will come from everybody having to pay more for their rail tickets.
Precisely. So it's a vicious circle.
Yeah. Yeah.
You add all that to the compensation. I mean, it's just people will get their compensation and then have to pay higher fares.
Yes.
Well, before you go on, have any one of the three of us any idea about the two people that were critically injured? How critically? I mean, is it possible that still there would be a death involved?
I don't know.
I don't have any detail.
No.
Yeah.
We're keeping an eye on, though, I think.
Yes. Yes. I once I defended a regulatory case. It was a chap who rang a cafe in St Leonard's, and it was a proper greasy spoon. And it wasn't just the spoon that was greasy in his cafe; it was, you know. And so the relevant health and safety people prosecuted him, and I defended him. And I remember that I laughed when I saw how, because they at the end of it they produced a sort of written details of their costs, and it was just ludicrous amounts of money. You know, he might as well have just signed the cafe over to them. He was a very odd fellow, though, I have to say, as well as keeping an extremely mucky cafe. I said to him, you know, it was about a 3-day case, and so at the end of day 2, I said to him, look, I think you ought to think about whether or not you want to give evidence, because he was a bit wonky, and he was going to say things that would probably implicate him even more than the prosecution had against him. I said, look, I want you to go away this evening and just talk to somebody you know and discuss with them whether you ought to give evidence. It's your decision, but you just go home and talk to somebody. And so the next morning, I saw him at court, and I said, did you talk to somebody last night, as I suggested? He said, yes, I did. I said, who was that? He said, it was my mum. I said, what did she say? Well, nothing, because she's been dead 10 years now.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. What can you say? Yeah.
Strange cafe owner defended by strange barrister. There we go.
Yeah.
What a combo.
But
both as greasy as the other.
Just in terms of criminal prosecutions, though, of course, unless some individual can be identified as the person at fault, it's only the company or the government that can be prosecuted, and so it has to be a financial penalty. There's nothing else you can do.
Yeah.
But supposing as because we don't know, one of the two critically injured popped their clogs, how would that materially alter the approach that the train companies could expect?
Well, that's potentially then corporate manslaughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did company law when I was at college, and the tutor there, we were having this debate about, what do you do when you're prosecuting a company, because all you can do is fine them, and often that it is passed on to customers and that sort of thing. And his idea was that each company needed to have a vice chairman for going to prison. So they'd employ somebody who, in the event the company lost the criminal case, this poor chap would have to pack his bag and do a little bit of porridge.
Rather like, as King Charles pointed out in America, which I didn't know, is that when the King or the Queen does the royal speech in the House of Commons, an MP is chosen to be hostage at Buck House, which is an old tradition going back to sort of, parliamentarian times.
Does she do it in the House of Commons or the House of Lords?
Oh, good. I think it's the Commons.
Queen's Speech.
Yeah.
House of Lords.
House of Lords.
If you recall, Black Rod goes and knocks
Black
on
Rod
the
goes
door.
and bangs on the door.
If you don't want to come in and listen, you can. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. There is on YouTube a very nice compilation of clips of Dennis Skinner. So every year when Black Rod would come in, he would have something quite sparky to say.
Yeah.
And it was very funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just talking about corporate manslaughter, I recall, because I used to use this in training young journalists and so on, but I believe the charge of corporate manslaughter was laid against the board of the Spirit of Free Enterprise, the ferry that turned over in
Zeebrugge
Harbour.
Yeah. Yes, I think you're absolutely right there. Yes.
And I think that he's still walking free.
Yeah. No. And that was a complete failure, because just to get away in time, they don't bother to close the door.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I'm confident you're right about that, Keith.
Yeah. Now, Richard, you asked me, but it may not be relevant today, but you asked me to look up some infamous train disasters.
Yes.
Over the years.
As we're talking about them.
So would you like me to mention the three I'm thinking of?
Go ahead.
Well, the first one, which is close to your heart, was the River Tay disaster in 1879.
And for those who don't know, the River Tay is up near Dundee.
Yes, it links, the bridge links Dundee with Fife.
That's right. Yeah, so that's north to south, yeah.
And it was built the year before, but it was built of bricks and mortar, basically, and wood. And it was very long, and it still is very long. The current one is like 2.75 miles. And on a Sunday evening, as we approached the end of 1879, a huge northerly wind swept down the river. And as a train was going across the bridge, it blew the middle section of the bridge completely away. And the train went plunging into the icy waters, and everybody on board died.
Yeah, so that's an example, Keith, of what you're asking about. In that case, there wasn't a survivor from the train.
No, there wasn't, including the train staff themselves, obviously. Yeah. So it inspired, if that's the right word, a doggerel type poet called William McGonagall to write a very rather long poem called the River Tay disaster. And he refers to the bridge over the Silvery Tay. And it is a dreadful poem to read. But its final verse actually quite rightly gives some advice to anybody rebuilding the bridge, because he basically says, you know, it was badly built, there were no buttresses, the wrong materials, so rebuild it properly. And that's what they did, using steel, iron, and proper buttressing. And that bridge still operates today, but I'm told that you can still see the remnants, the wreckage of the old bridge, the stumps of the old bridge, as you go over the new bridge.
You can, yes, I've been there.
Right, I thought you might.
Yeah.
Now, 1951, there was a very serious accident at my local railway station, Ford, whereby a train went through 2 red signals, and the accident report blamed both the driver and the guard, and it went up onto the platform and then overturned into the other railway. Again, nobody was killed, but people were seriously injured. That was in 51. And the interesting is that until I stopped commuting, the senior ticket bloke up at Ford, a guy called Frank, he'd worked in the railways literally all his life. And he was there as a station boy when that crash happened. And he remembers it vividly. And he used to tell me about it. And if you look at the photographs, I mean, literally, you're looking towards Chichester. You and I have been through that station so many times, Richard.
Yes.
But you can imagine coming over the bridge over the river on the way to Chichester, and then the train literally just jumped off the rails onto the platform, with the rear end slipping back across both railway lines. So it was quite a scene.
Yeah.
Now, within my commuting lifetime, something happened in 1988, which was the Clapham rail disaster.
Yes.
Which is where people did die.
Yes.
And it was all because of the under-maintained railway system, thanks mainly to Thatcher's government, because she had no time for trains or public transport.
Yes.
So it was seriously underfunded, still in private hands.
Didn't she say sort of any man over 30 who uses public transport is a failure?
Is a failure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Or as Donald Duck would say, a loser. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what she did say. And basically the wiring was in such a bad shape that it sent the wrong signal out. So the driver coming up from the south on a blind bend believed he had right of way, but unfortunately he didn't, through no fault of his own, because there was a stationary train half a mile ahead of him, which he went straight into. That knock-on effect meant that the train ahead of him, which was from Poole and had many passengers on it as well, that train was then catapulted into an empty train on another track. And it was carnage. I remember the television coverage. It was absolute carnage, and they had a memorial service about it only quite recently, which the BBC News covered. Yeah, so that was Clapham.
Could I add one to Phil's list?
Please do, because I've run out of steam now.
Hold on.
We did a little feature on this. The ghost of Clayton Tunnel. Clayton Tunnel being about a mile and a half north of Brighton.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about, Phil?
I know exactly what you're talking about, because it's quite a spooky story. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as I pointed out, I've been through that tunnel 1,000 times, and I haven't heard the screams. They're supposedly the ghosts of the victims. But there were about 20 people died and 120 people injured when it is about 1840 or 1850, not long after the railways had started. And the train left left Brighton, and it got to Claydon Tunnel. And in those days, they used flags, and the signalman gave a red flag. But the train disappeared into the tunnel. He hadn't seen it, and it had gone ahead. So the next one he gave a clear to, and it went through and rammed into the first one. And then the third one, he totally thought that they'd all gone okay. And it rammed into the back of the two of them. And it was carnage, as you say, absolute carnage.
Well, once in a while I choose to scare myself silly by watching programs about the supernatural or paranormal. And this is sort of about trains, because it's about the underground. And there's a thing you can still get on YouTube called Ghosts of the Underground. And it's members of the London Underground staff over many, many years who relate their experiences of the paranormal in the tube stations. And it ranges from Covent Garden. There's the ghost of a well-known actor who died in a duel, who haunts Covent Garden station. Other examples were the guys who go down the tracks in the night when there are no trains to check on things. There was one particular stretch of the underground where they would meet up with this bloke carrying an old-fashioned lamp, and he would acknowledge them and they'd carry on. And this happened time and time again. And it turned out that there'd been a disaster there whereby men working in the tunnel had collapsed. And they reckoned that those who'd witnessed this ghost had described him as well as the lamp, and the clothing and the type of lamp fitted exactly when the disaster was. So it's things like that. But the one that you reminded me of, Keith, about the screams, is that there was one chap working on a central London tube station, and one evening, out of the blue, in the concourse, all he could hear were the screams of women and children. And it went on for about 15, 20 minutes. And he said, as he was describing it, he said, I'll remember this to the day I die. He said, and I can feel the hairs on my neck standing up now as I repeat this. And it turned out that there'd been a disaster at that station because it had been bombed in the war whilst it had been full of evacuees. And they were pretty much all wiped out by this bomb. And so they linked that with the experience. And, you could never tell there'd been a disaster. There was no memorial. It was just a station concourse. But that's what he experienced. And another two guys who were working again at night in an underground office, engineer's office, and suddenly they both felt freezing cold. Because something to do with haunting, as you may know, is you get cold spots. And they believe it's because the energy that the apparition needs, it sucks it out of the atmosphere. That's the theory. And there was one with his back to the little window of the storehouse, but the other one was looking towards the window. And so the bloke with his back to the window said to his mate, he said, God, you look like you've seen a ghost. And he said, I have. You didn't see the face at the window. And apparently this spectral face just came to the window, stared in, and disappeared. So anyway, that's Ghost on the Underground. And this is where Richard says this is a load of testicles.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. But I do have one railway near miss type event where I represented the defendant. It was possibly the most Welsh case you could imagine. My client lived with his parents in his 40s, like you know, and he worked on the farm with them, but also he would go and collect the milk from various farms in a big lorry to take it off to have it, you know, to the bottling plant or whatever it was. And he was driving along down in a very small place called Whitland, which is well beyond Swansea, put it that way.
Right, we're going the Wild West now.
Oh, completely, yeah.
Towards Haverfordwest, yeah.
And straight road, and as he's driving along, there are these kids, this is another quite nice Welsh bit, who were checking a rugby ball across the road. And so it went in front of his lorry. And he looked back to give them some Welsh swear words, and thereby missed the fact that the level crossing he was coming to, the barriers were down.
Oh my God.
And he hit the first barrier, so he was on the track. And then there was a train pulling out of the station. And so he, probably quite sensibly, he decided to go through the next barriers as well. So he got off the railway line. But it was an there was some CCTV of it, incredibly near miss. And it, you know, a little 3-carriage chugger train, and heaven knows what damage it would have done to him, and also any passengers on and in particular the driver on the train. So he got prosecuted for dangerous driving. Hung jury first time, and by the second time we found out a little bit about the lads, and were able to show that this was that they were boasting that they did it deliberately to put him off and blah blah blah, and the judge chucked it. So he is not guilty of dangerous driving, but he.
Well, I think that's quite right. I mean, I represented a stagecoach bus driver driving the 700 bus who near Shoreham Station, as the gates were coming down, bizarrely decided to take a risk. And he ended up with a bus mowing down both the railway gates and stopping on the other side of the crossing. And he was charged with dangerous driving and was rightly convicted. It was Judge Rennie who tried it. He was very good with the sentencing because the man had always accepted careless, that the Crown wanted dangerous.
Yes.
And in the witness box, he admitted that, I took a chance. Chance. God knows why. A bus. There was no great pressure, but there we are. So
now the 700, that's the bus that sort of goes along the coast, isn't it?
Yes, they call it the coastliner.
Yeah.
And it certainly comes out of Brighton, and it certainly goes all the way to Portsmouth.
Yes, I think that is what it does.
because I've done it ironically with. There was a phase my younger son went through when he just wanted to go on bus journeys.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time.
Yes, I can imagine.
And there were times when Portsmouth Harbour Station was out of action, some problem with that and Southsea. And we could use the 700 with our rail tickets, and it was just crazy, really.
Yeah.
It took hours to get home.
My experience of the 700 was prosecuting this slightly older fella whose hobby was,
like Keith?
Yeah. His hobby was to get on the top of the 700 at the very, very front.
Yeah.
And sit there, and then when the bus pulled out, and because he always made sure it was a time when there were school children around.
Yeah.
He'd stand up and get himself out, and you can imagine. And of course,
I'm afraid I can.
With the 700, as you say, it's a very long time.
It is. And the sort of joke is that they call it an express.
Yeah, no.
It's the slowest express I've ever come across, but there we are.
Right, gentlemen, can I, Philip, thank Casper for his contribution this morning? It's absolutely brilliant.
You're very welcome. He's buzzing this morning. Mainly because I've replaced his seeds.
Can I just leave you with the fact that Mirador changed the total environmental basics of the Downs? Because when we did the program on the tunnel disaster, I looked in the library for some walkers, because it is reported that some walkers have heard the screams coming up to the tunnel, walking over the tunnel. And I found this beautiful shot out of the library of some people walking along with their sticks and so on, and there was slight movement at the end. And on reviewing it, I suddenly found that the slight movement at the end was an African elephant.
An African elephant?
An African elephant. So I had to put up a warning. If you're walking this route, watch the African elephant.
I think that takes the phrase, there's an elephant in the room, to its extreme.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. It's very illuminating.
Keith, can I just mention one thing? Start of October, I'm going to be in Scotland for a week. So it may well be that I can link up with you. And
as long as you've got internet, we can take it from anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. No. So
no. This is Scotland.
Yeah. And no. So I can show you how it's no doubt absolutely slating it down with rain and freezing cold.
Is it Dunbar again, Richard?
It is. Yeah.
Lovely. I'm glad for you. That's great.
It's massively undervalued. Dunbar has 3 beaches. It was the birthplace of John Muir, who's a very influential environmentalist from the 19th century.
Is there not a statue of him there?
There is.
Yeah.
And a museum. And it has some of the best independent shops I know. There's a community fruit and veg shop, community bakery, old-fashioned fishmonger, old-fashioned butcher, and a co-op if you want to buy your tipple.
That sounds pretty civilized.
Yeah, it's really a good place to spend a holiday. Yeah.
Right. Well,
okay.
I don't know whether you guys are doing your program on Thursdays, Phil, but sadly I can't join you.
No, Phil. It wouldn't be the same without you.
Well, it'll be different. but it might be better.
No.
Well,
Well, Keith, can I let you know whether I can do Thursday, please?
Yes, that's fine. Let me know plenty of time, because if not, I shall go into the archive and fill this off with something like one of these community vegetable distribution places.
So it looks like we three will meet again a week on Thursday.
Indeed.
Yes.
Bye, gents.
Okay.
Good to see you. Yeah, take care.
Bye.